Welcome to Jolene's Books and Writers Talk, where stories begin long before the first page, and writing is more than words on a screen. I'm your host, Jolene McFadden, and each week I sit down with authors and publishing professionals to talk about craft, creativity, and the real life behind the books. These episodes are sponsored by Southern Dragon Publishing. Please take a few seconds and hit the like button, share this and other episodes, subscribe to our channel, and even leave a nice comment below. Let's begin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mindy Killgrove. I'm the author of several cozy mystery series and romance stories. Currently, I am working on the last book in my Ventura Beach mystery series, and I cannot wait to share it with everyone.
Tell us a little bit about that. Is that like an island thing or?
Yes, I do live in Orlando, Florida, and I was inspired to write a couple of books about people who live in the area. I created this fictional town called Ventura, and there's all kinds of good, cozy mystery type crimes happening. I really love this town, and so there's not necessarily a murder in every story because I want my readers to live there. I want them to want to live there with me and the gang from Buena Beach. So I try to mix up the tales, and sometimes it's just a good mystery, like a missing person. Other times we do have a murder mystery that needs to be solved.
I'm sure you like to read a lot.
I
Most
do.
most writers do. So who are your top 3 influencers that really help you create your own stories?
My favorite authors are Jane Austen, Agatha Christie, and probably William Shakespeare. But I always tell people I was born out of time. I was born in the wrong century because those really are the stories that I read and then reread most often. But for contemporary authors, I try to read across varying genres. I'm always looking for other indie authors like myself so I can give some support to people in that strain, but I do like to pick up whatever looks good, or I'm always looking for recommendations. So when other people say, I think you would like this, give this a try, I'm that person who says, okay, I'll pick it up.
Do you find that the Orange County library system is more open to indie authors these days?
I can't really compare when you say these days, I can't compare it to anything in the past. I have only been in Orange County for about 8 years. And I only started my writing journey here about 2 years ago. I have been very welcomed by the OCLS system. I feel like it was last May, I had the opportunity to go to a local book fair as an author and present my work to people who came into the library. I have filled out forms to have my books added to their stacks, which is very nice that they do offer that for locals. And then occasionally I do participate in the OCLS Writers Group, which is an online Zoom gathering. I don't necessarily share my work because I tend to write so quickly that by the time I would get feedback on 1,000 words, I would have pushed on. But it is a lot of fun for me to get to talk to other people who are working through the writing process. And I appreciate that Orange County supplies that.
Through these podcast interviews, I collect names of local authors, indie and traditional. And about once every 2 or 3 years, I update the list with publications, contact information, and then I send it to the libraries by county. That's part of the North Florida Writers Blog Tour. Orange County is in Central Florida, so you're a little further down. The furthest I go is Marion County because I can get there in about an hour. Yes. That's good to know about Orange County, and hopefully the other counties will keep going because self published and hybrid published authors are becoming the norm. Have you found that to be true? You find more and more people?
My first two books that I wrote when I was very young, I was 25, and they were published traditionally through a small press. I didn't particularly love that journey. It wasn't what I anticipated. So when I got back into writing more recently, I decided to go the self-publishing route simply because I wanted to have my hands in every piece and part of the storytelling and then of the production as well. And For the most part, I've been very happy, but I think that it is gratifying when local businesses, indie bookstores, libraries, when they do show an interest in the indie author community that we're both a part of, because so many of the traditionally published books nowadays are written by the same people,
Mm.
or they're written by celebrities who don't have a background in writing. And that's why I look at it like, oh, support us, support the authors who really care about making these books. We're not just trying to earn a quick buck. We want to share our stories with readers. To answer your question, I'm finding that there are lots of indie authors out there who feel much as I do, and we're just trying to support ourselves and each other.
There's a debate going around in one of my writers' groups, a part of 3 different ones. The first goes romance writers, the Writers Alliance of Gainesville, and the Northeast Florida Sisters in Crime. The Authors Guild has a Tampa chapter, so I'm part of them too. But anyway, there's a debate going on about centering your published works, keeping with KU and utilizing their tools and doing the Kindle Select and all that kind of stuff, or going wide. There's different debates on either side. What do you use both tools? Are you part of KU and do you use the Select because they require
Exclusivity.
yeah? Are you
Absolutely. Yeah. When I first got into it, I did not realize the exclusivity was required. So initially, when I was publishing my own works, I was putting everything everywhere. Anywhere I could drop my books, you could find it. And I got a letter from Kindle telling me that wasn't allowed. I needed to be exclusive with them if I wanted to use Kindle Unlimited. So I did go to that format for most of my books, except for the first 3. So my first trilogy is available, Barnes and Noble, Kobo, Google Play, all of those options. And it's also on Kindle, but it's not Kindle Unlimited. And I do find that my Kindle Unlimited sales are better than I'm seeing elsewhere. That's why I have decided to stick exclusively with them for the bulk of my catalog.
Okay.
What about you? What have you found?
I like wide. The reason why I went wide is because the libraries automatically accept you. I publish with both Drafted Digital for my paperback and IngramSparks for the hardbacks if I do hardback versions, because they send them out to the libraries worldwide catalog. So any of my readers, I just put in a little note saying, don't forget to ask for my book at your local library. It's on the warehouse listing and they can purchase it.
Mhm.
And that gets me on Overdrive and all the ebook subscription services around the world. To me, it's worth it. Yes, the sales are slow in coming because you have to do a lot of the marketing, but I've also found local bookstores will not order your book from Amazon.
Yeah, I use IngramSpark too, just for my paperbacks. On ebook, people can only get it through Kindle Unlimited, but I do use IngramSpark as well. I actually like their print quality a little bit better. I think it looks nicer when it arrives. So I use them mostly for that purpose because I want
You,
anybody who buys my book to have a nice copy.
the one thing that Ingram has now introduced that everybody's so fascinated with, mostly fantasy authors right now, is the sprayed edges. You can get
Mm-hmm.
that service done at Ingram, even though they're a pain in the butt to get up there and get past. But it is possible if you have Adobe, not the reader, but it's part of the reader family. If you put your book in there and convert it to PDF, and then there's 3 stages that you go through that flattens it and makes it printer worthy and all that fun stuff. It takes a
Mm-hmm.
little longer, but I like draft to digital because I
Mm-hmm.
can set up my ebook with my Word document. They convert it over to EPUB, and then they take the EPUB with all the little fancy chapter headings and all that and convert it into paperback for me. And I don't have to do anything. I don't have to make sure that the table of contents is right or whatever. And then they publish through Ingram Sparks Warehouse. So I still get in the same place.
Yeah.
So Anyway, you got to keep working at it because they keep changing stuff. Uh,
Yes.
Draft Digital also has 2 sales per year through the company they bought, Smashwords, the ebook.
Mm.
And if it's not in KU, you can take advantage of that and offer like 50% off or 75% off
Oh,
on Mother's Day and that sort of stuff. And they give you the embed codes that are automatic. And so that's some of the marketing tools that they offer. So
that's nice.
in the future, I know you have a website, yes?
I do. Yes.
And are you part of social media? And which ones do you like to do?
Outside of my website, I use primarily Facebook and Instagram. Occasionally I'll post on X, and then I do have I think it's rather robust YouTube channel because I
Nice.
also dabble in children's books. So I started by posting my children's books on there with me reading aloud from them. And
Mhm.
then I've continued to add little videos as well.
That's another great place, especially if you can get a variety of videos anywhere from the shorts or portrait mode, and then the longer 2 and 3 minute videos are horizontal. And you put in good hashtags in the descriptions, it gets you out there eventually. So you've not used TikTok then?
I do not.
Okay. Have you tried the Blue Sky app yet?
I do not use that either. To be perfectly honest with you, I did not have social media at all until I started on my most recent journey as a writer. So I've only had any accounts for about 2 years. And I know that is very unusual, especially for my generation. I don't love putting myself out there. I understand that it's important to do as an author and to talk about my books and to connect with my readers, but it is not my favorite part of this business.
There are certain tools that you can add to your website that will automatically post for you to all these places.
That's a good idea.
The whole point is to get people to sign up for your newsletter or your blog or whatever so that you can do email campaigns later.
Hmm.
You have a newsletter set up on your website?
I do have a newsletter. I use BookFunnel, so I have been able to do quite a bit of marketing and advertising through BookFunnel and then draw people to my newsletter that way.
Good. So I take it you haven't tried Substack.
I know a little bit about Substack because some of the Jane Austen groups I'm a part of, they have their own Substacks. And I have a little bit of background in using Patreon and Substack. I prefer to spend my time writing, and so I haven't really dipped into a whole lot of those other avenues.
It's all part and parcel of being an author because it's your writer's business.
Yes.
I'm on all the socials, but I don't like Discord or Twitch. I'm not on Reddit. There's a dedicated author group of readers and writers. I usually try to get on there and build up an audience just to see how it goes. And I'm with you. It's tiring. You get burnout. I try to schedule stuff ahead of time. Facebook will allow you to schedule posts to
Almost a
Facebook.
month out. Yeah.
More than that, YouTube will also let you schedule, by the way.
Hmm.
I haven't really used their posting tab too much, but they haven't done anything with it. What are the two of the things that you like best about a writing career and two that you don't like?
Sure. For 15 years, I was an English teacher, and I have a degree actually in both education as well as English composition. I suppose one thing I like about having this writing career is that it gives me the opportunity to use skills that I developed a long time ago and to keep growing with it. I know a lot of friends who get into jobs and they feel stagnant and there's no room for promotion, there's no room for this or that. But as an author, we're constantly producing more work. Sometimes I'll feel like my writing has gotten better. Sometimes I feel like, oh, what did I just do? We all have good days and bad days. People meeting me or reacting to a post I've made online, it really is gratifying to think that people are reading what I'm writing. And I do have the opportunity to see that growth. Now, as for things that I don't like, very clearly, it's advertising and marketing. If I could just do the writing and the editing. I love editing, which I know again sounds strange, but that is part of my personality with my English teacher background. That I like editing work. I like editing work for other people as well. But when I'm not proofreading or writing and I have to spend days scheduling posts and working on marketing and making sure I'm going back in and replying to readers, that's all very, very hard for me. And I wish a lot of times that I didn't have to do that. Now, don't get me wrong, as soon as I say that, there will probably be people who watch your podcast and they go, oh, yay, I can contact Mindy and try to work with her and get her to support my services where I can do that for her. And that's exhausting too, because I'm complaining about it, but I'm not necessarily asking for someone else's services, if that makes any sense.
That is an option, but it's expensive, and half of my friends have bad experiences with it. I promote a teaching service. I don't do everything for you unless you pay me to it. But you want me to teach you how to do it? Yes. I'd rather do that and get you prepped and ready so you can advocate for yourself. Basically, protect yourself is what I'm trying to teach my older individuals, because that's who I end up working with, people older than me. But anyway, is there any software as you're creating your worlds? Different people like to use different things. So I guess the first question is, are you a pantser or a plotter?
I'm a plotter for sure. When people ask me to describe myself in 3 words, the first word is always organized because that is my deal. Not just in writing, but in life as well. I'm the person who types out a calendar every week and hangs it on the refrigerator so all of my family members know what we're dealing with throughout the week. When it comes to doing the plot outlines, those are just as important to me as the writing because I also thread in if there's certain pieces of dialogue I've already thought of that I want my characters to say, I add that in the outline. I don't make it just bare bones. I can have an outline for a 50,000 word book that's 10,000 words itself.
Okay.
I'm goofy like that, but for sure, I always recommend to other people if they ask to make up an outline for their work.
So do you just use like Word, or do
Mhm.
you use Scrivener?
I simply use Microsoft Word. I keep it as easy as possible.
I know you said something about a series. Do you have a world Bible set up?
For the Buena Beach series, there is certainly a world Bible, especially as I'm getting to the end here. I'm on book 7. I have brought a lot of characters in, and sometimes I forget what color I described their hair. Because we can be very vague and say, oh, it's brown or it's blonde, and I can remember that, right? But when I put in the intricate details, like there are caramel colored highlights or something, I want to make sure I don't
Oh,
mess that up later in the series. So I try to have that for that. When I write the outlines, there is always a character description list at the top of every outline, regardless of which book it is in the series, because again, I never want to be the person who says, oh, yeah, my character has blue eyes, but then by the end of the series, they have green eyes. And I have people call me out on that. So I try to be very thorough and organized.
those are good tips. What would be your top tips for newbies getting started?
Anytime anyone asks me, and I did have the opportunity a couple of days ago to meet someone at an event who was very young. She was 17 and she was part of a writers group. And she says, what do you recommend doing? And I said, don't worry about trying to come up with a full story. Write the story that you have in your head, outline it, and then you can go back in and decide if this is where you wanted to begin or if you need to add a proper beginning. Because sometimes we come up with the middle first, right? So I do try to encourage people to just write what's in your head. Don't go into it with all kinds of different expectations or what needs to be there.
Good advice. Now I have to ask you about AI.
Oh,
As a teacher and a writer, and it's very prevalent in our world right now. Do you have any strong feelings one way or another about AI, using it either as an idea generator, a marketing tool? Definitely not to create your story, but we all
Right.
agree on that. But is there certain times you would use AI?
Full disclosure, I do use AI to create images that I use. Like when I say I do a post on Facebook or Instagram,
Right.
I have no artistic drawing, painting type skills. So I use Canva or Photor to create an image of maybe what I think a character would look like or what I think the house on the beach looks like. And then I add my own flair to the rest of it. But I do use it in that capacity. As far as people who use it for story production, I'm like you. I think it's cheating the system and it makes me really sad. I have done a lot of beta reading and book reviewing, and I have come across items that I know were written by AI. And it's heartbreaking because I spend a lot of time working, crafting my stories, making those detailed outlines, and then spending the time bringing them all the way through. To think that someone else is just plugging in a few sentences and 20 seconds later has an 80,000 word book is mind boggling to me. But I try to tread carefully because I know that there are probably lots of artists, graphic artists out there who are offended by the fact that I use AI to create an image. So I try not to judge, but it's not going away anytime soon.
This is so true. I think we need to get in at the beginning and train them properly. Say, no, you can't create this, but you can help me create this kind of thing. That was another question. For each of your covers, we have different themes and color schemes for romance and different for cozies. And right now, cozies is more cartoonish, I guess, more painting like, more figures. Do you have somebody that helps you with that?
I have in the past, but nowadays I mostly do it on my own.
Okay. See,
But when you
very good.
mentioned the issue with the cozies and the being rather cartoonish, I love my cozy covers. I just do. I think they're gorgeous. But a lot of times people will approach me at book festivals and they'll say, "Oh, you write books for kids or you write books for middle grades." And I'm like, "No, that's a murder mystery there in your hands." Because people who do not read in that genre don't necessarily recognize those bright colors and the kind of whimsical look as
Mhm.
something that would be for an adult.
And it's all subject to change. That's why you have to recreate your covers every 10 years. There's a new demographic coming up, so you can republish your stories. Yeah, but you do have to change your covers, I think, personally.
Is that something you've run into with your own work where you're refreshing your covers
I've
regularly?
actually, I help authors republish their backlists. I have one client who was real big in the 80s and she was on the top tier list and all that. And then she retired and because they were too restrictive in their requirements. And she wanted to write stories that she wanted to read, went with strong female characters in unusual occupations. She wanted to grow. Her earlier stories that she got her rights back to, she was going through and she updated some of them and then I would change the cover to reflect the new thing. And they were all romances, and she had very specific ideas about what she
Mhm.
wanted on the cover. So yes, we refreshed everything and republished what she wanted. This is something I'm talking to all authors about. When you copyright your book with the Copyright Office and you get that certificate, which I encourage all authors to go ahead and do, those are inheritable. You can gift them, will them to your next of kin, or, and this is what I suggest, especially we'll have a big repertoire of work, a big body of work later on, put them in a family trust
Mm.
because the trust lives on and you just reassign a new trustee. However, that works out, you put that in your incorporation papers. Because you'll find, I don't know if you have children, but a lot of
Mhm.
your immediate children don't necessarily care about your career. They don't care about your books, but your grandchildren might. It would be a labor of love for them to do that. Plus, 70 years after you're gone is a long time. And that's a long time for those books to be in limbo.
Okay.
Is there any other thing you would like to talk about or let your readers know about for?
I like to travel around Florida. I have trouble keeping track of when I'm going places. So I'm all over the state of Florida all the time, trying to meet with people, talk with other authors, just travel to these book fests and hopefully have a good time because my favorite topic to discuss is books. And anytime I get the chance to share with other people my passion, I like to do that.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to Jolene's Books and Writers Talk. You'll find links to my guests, their books, and additional resources in the show notes. If this conversation inspired you, follow or subscribe wherever you listen, and join me again next week for another journey into the world of writing.